Hello, it's Sheila back again with the bands for the cardigan this time. I've already done the button band. I've put that on and I'm going to show you how I picked the stitches up for this. And you have to remember when you're picking up the stitches for this that the Blackberry stitch, you have more rows to the inch. That is usually, well, mine was 10 rows to the inch. And normally when you're doing just ordinary plain knitting, it's about 7.5 rows to the inch. So you pick up the stitches a little bit different up here, but I'll show you how I did it. Put that one down and blow up the thing a bit. And so you can see here, I've put the instructions down for an ordinary neckband and the button band and the buttonhole band, but I'm also doing instructions for a collar as well. That's what this cardigan's going to have. But when you pick up the stitches for the button band, if you're doing a one with just an ordinary neckband on, for this size, I would have picked 77 stitches up the front. But because I'm doing for the collar, I'm only picking up 72 stitches, because when you do the put this one here, when you're picking up the stitches, when you have a neckband on, you have the neckband come a little bit higher up here, so you need a few extra stitches for the neckband. But this one is going to have a collar on from straight from the edge of the shaping here, so you won't need those extra stitches. So I'm picking up 72 stitches up on the other side, and I've started picking the stitches up here. I'll shift that book out the way. I've already picked up some of the stitches, and I've picked up 2, 4, 6, 8. There's actually 9 stitches I've picked up along where the rib is down here. There's 10 rows to the rib. I've picked up 9 stitches on the thing, and now that needle down. I only need one needle. When you're picking up the stitches on this edge, as you can see, the little bits that stick out here, this is where the berry was near the edge of the knitting, where you only had 1 stitch to knit before you started the berry. So you have to be careful where you're picking up the stitches around there. So I normally pick up 3 stitches with ordinary knitting. I normally pick up 3 stitches and miss one, so I miss every 4th stitch. But with this having more stitches to the more rows to the inch, I'm going to pick up less. So I'm going to pick up 2 stitches and miss one. So I'll pick up 1. I've got a little bit of yarn in the way there where I started a new ball, and pick up 1 there. I've missed a 1 there, missed a 1 there. I picked up 1 there, and I'm going to pick up another 1 and miss the next one and go on to the next one. So that's 2. So I'm picking up 2 stitches and missing the 3rd stitch. I think that there's a mix there. So that's 1, 2, and it is quite aware of one of the little bits that's bulging out here. I'm going to miss this bit and pick it up there, and then pick up 1, 2, miss the next one, pick up 1, 2, miss the next one, 1, 2, miss the one in the middle of the bulge there, because I'm going to miss a 1 there, and I'll pick a 1 up at the edge. That's 2, miss the next one, pick up 2, Miss the next one, pick up 2, miss the next one, pick up the end of the bulb there, 1, 2. And that's how you pick the stitches up. I'm going to pick up 72 stitches, but sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. You might have 73, 74. A couple of stitches extra is not going to make any difference to the length of the rib. So I will meet you when I get to the end of that. Right, so that's my stitches picked up. It took me a couple of attempts to get the right number of stitches. I had to go back part across the row because I think I was taking too many, leaving up too big a space between the little bits that were sticking out. But I've managed to get the 72 this time, so I have a needle somewhere. Where's the other needle? Oh, there. Now we're going to knit the first row. I always knit the first row of the when I picked stitches up for the neckband or the button bands, anything like that. And it puts a garter ridge up the edge of the cardigan, which makes it look neater. So I'm going to knit across that row. And I will be back when I get to the end of that. So that's the first row. As you can see, the garter edge there. And I'm going to knit 1 purl 1 rib now. Let's see where I put the buttonhole band. I'm going to do the buttonhole band, and I'll be making 6 buttonholes evenly. And when you do that, you just go wool forward and knit 2 together. And I'm doing that on the fourth row. Then I'm going to knit up to 6 rows, and then I'll be casting off loosely in rib. But I'll show you how I sort out the buttonholes when I get that far. So it's just knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and that's how I'm going to do the rib, just knit 1, purl 1, or the number of rows before I do the buttonholes. But I will come back when I get to the buttonhole row. Now I've knit 3 rows of the band, and I've put stitch markers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 where I'm going to place the buttonholes. And when I come to those markers, that stitch, that is where, after I've knit that stitch, I'll be knitting 2 together, but I'll show you when I'm knitting here. So this is the 4th row that I'm doing the buttonholes on. Start off with a purl, knit, purl, and this is the row where the stitch marker is. All the stitch markers are on a knit, where there's a knit stitch. Bring the wool forward, knit the next 2 stitches together, and I hold my finger on the yarn there to keep it slack for the buttonhole, so you don't get a tight buttonhole. And I pull it up a little bit, and then I'll go on to the next buttonhole. and I'm on to the next marker. So I'm going to knit that stitch, the wool forward, knit the next 2 stitches together. I keep my finger on the wool there so it doesn't pull tight. So you need a little bit give on the where you have the wool forward. And that's how I'm going to do each buttonhole. I'll show you one more time and then so that's where the next buttonhole is going to be after that stitch there. The wool forward, the 2 together, finger on the yarn, and then on to the next one, and I'll come back when I finish those. And now I'm on to my last buttonhole. I'm going to knit that stitch, yarn forward, 2 together, keep your finger on the yarn to keep it slack, and knit the last few stitches. And that's how you do the buttonholes. And I'll take those stitch markers out now because the buttonholes is done. So now I have to knit 2 more rows and then I'll be casting off. That's all 6 rows done, and now I'm going to cast off those stitches. I'm casting off in the twisted rib, the same as what I've been knitting in. Casting off quite loosely. I'm not pulling the stitch tight after I've casted it off. And I will be doing that till I get to the end of the row. And we are now picking up the stitches for the neckband. And when you pick the stitches up, well, it's for a collar actually. When you pick the stitches up, you start halfway across the band. And I've picked 16 stitches up on this part. And then I'm going to pick up the stitches on the sleeves. Where are we? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I do all the knitting before I do any sewing. The only time I ever do any sewing before I finish knitting is if I've absolutely got to. Now I'm going to pick up 21 on the from the back. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, it's 21 stitches off the back. And it's another 9 stitches for the sleeve. One, 2, twisted 2. That took a bit getting off there. That's 9 stitches off the other sleeve. And then we want 16 stitches down the other front. That's 1, 2, 15, 16. And now we're going to knit across that row, and we're going to start with, we're going to knit 3, increase in the next stitch, knit 5, no, knit 4, 2, 3, 4, increase in the 5th stitch. So we're going to increase in every 5th stitch across. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase in the 5th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase in the next stitch, and we're going to do that right until we get to the last few stitches on here. Now we're coming to the last few stitches, and there's not enough to do 4, and so I'm going to do 3 on the last. 1, 2, 3, increase in the next stitch in the 4th stitch, and then knit the last 3 stitches. And that is the extra stitches on for the neck, for the collar actually. And then we're going to knit 1 by 1 rib. Well, I'm knitting in twisted rib, the same as I've done for the whole rest of the cardigan, until that measures 2 3/4 inches. And I'll come back when I get that far. So I have partly sewn the cardigan up, and I've left one seam which I've been sewing here for to show how to do the stitching. Blow that up a little bit. I'll take that pin out. And this is flat stitching, where you hold the seams together like that, and you just take a stitch from one side across to the other. And flat stitch it down. It's on quite dark today and all. It's spoils my videos when it gets dark. So I don't like to put the light on because it gets shadows over what I'm doing. And that's how you flat stitch, for anyone that doesn't know. It's much better than holding the seams like that and going over, because you get a bumpy seam and it doesn't look so neat on the other side. And you don't pull the thread or the wool too tight when you just keep it at the way it actually comes on through the wool. The wool's starting to tie up. It's too long. The pin's coming out on the end then. You put it back in. Where did it go? There. And just keep flat stitching down the seam like that. It's curling up the wool and it's making it bunch up when it's going through the thing. So you don't want to pull the wool too tight, because that would start gathering the seam in if you pulled it tight. So you just pull it gently through the and I'm now nearly at the end of this. I'm going to take the pin out, and this is where I oversew these parts, because this is where you cast the stitches off. And then I finish it off with put the needle through and wrap the yarn around the needle. I do that 3 times. And that holds it securely. I can cut that off. And that's that seam done. And you look at it on the other side, it's quite neat. The other one's there. And now to do the rest. When you do the cuff, you flat stitch that first. You put a pin in. Yeah, take me a while to thread this needle. It's quite a thin needle I'm using, so it's harder to thread it. So I don't like thick needles when I'm sewing. So for to do the seam, you just hold the seams on the cuffs exactly the same as way as you did on the top. Just hold on the raglings. You just hold the two seams together like that, and just go from one side to the other. Down to where the seam, where the rib finishes. Which is about here. And then you do a back stitch from there. And the seams, you can see, that's a seam I done down there on the cuff. You get a much neater seam by doing it flat like that. Now I'm going to do the back stitch. Need to pin that, put 1 or 2 pins in to hold it together. And I'm going to do a back stitch on the seams on the side and the sleeve seams, and the back stitch is just sewing 1 stitch and then going back behind the stitch and coming out a little way in front. This wool is terrible to sew with. And just go back behind the stitch and come out in front. Leave a little space from where you went in to where it comes out for the next stitch that you're going to back stitch over there. And you have little lumps and bumps here where the Blackberry was close to the edge. You just have to sew over them and through them. And that's how you back stitch. And I will be back when I get a bit more of that done. And that is the seams done. And you can see there where you have the little bumpy bits sticking out. You just go in a straight line across those. You don't go around the bulbs when you're knitting. You just keep going in a straight line, and you get that when the stitch, when the Blackberry is right near the edge of the knitting. So that's that little cardigan done, everything except the buttons. Turn it down again. Oops. I've left one the long end there. Long end on the bottom there, that'll sew some of the buttons. Just got to work my way up. I'll go and get some buttons now and stitch the buttons on. all finished now, all the buttons on, ready to go into my eBay shop. So give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll show you more when I get more done. So bye for now.